The newest Harley Davidson controversy may be much worse than what you are thinking, and today I'm going to give you my opinion on that latest controversy, what kind of implications that will have for people right here in the US and the motor company as a whole. But I also want to look at the CEO. Who is he? What is he about? Because I think that obviously influences a lot of the motor company's decisions and has driven a lot of the controversy. So I want to look at him and those decisions, and also this move to Thailand, does it have other implications behind it or other motives behind it? We're going to talk about all of that. And of course, this is my opinion and I want to hear yours. No matter if you agree or disagree, let me know what you think after the video down below in the comments section. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now, the first thing I want you to know is that I love Harley Davidson. I'm a rider. I love their motorcycles. I like Indian, and I like a lot of Indians, but I really love Harley Davidson. And I've never been shy about making that claim. So I really care about what the motor company does and the direction that they're going. Now, I want to tell you why this controversy may be worse than what you're thinking, but I want to tell you what I'm doing here on the channel, and that is giving you an opportunity to win a brand new 2025 Indian Scout Bobber. This is my way of saying thank you for literally changing my life. That's something we can get into at a later time if y'all want to. But essentially what I've done is I've partnered up with the same small veteran-owned business that I've worked with in the past doing other giveaways. This time we are giving away the biggest item we've ever done. There's one link in the description of this video that will take you to Headshot Nation, which is now our community of both channels combined into one. But what's cool about it is you can separate those things if you want to just watch gun channel or motorcycle channel, exclusive videos, ad-free videos, early access, and you can send in requests. So if you have a request for a specific video or comparison, if I haven't already done it, and assuming that I can do it, which a lot of the times I can, I will absolutely take those requests before any other. And the price of admission is less than a family of four going to a fast food restaurant. As sad as that is, that's the truth. So 6 months of access is $49. You'll get an exclusive download with that as well. And again, that gives you all of the perks I just mentioned. Now, one thing about our giveaways is we keep the pool of entry small and the time frame small. You only have until September 30th of 2024, 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. It gets cut off. So click the link in the description. Make sure that you enter in on Headshot Nation, sign up for 6 months, and you automatically get that entry to win the 2025 Indian Scout Bobber. Big thanks to every one of you, and good luck. So, this latest controversy that we are talking about is them moving some of their lineup over to Thailand. Now, the lineup in question here is the Pan America, the Nightster, and the new Sportster series. These bikes have the Revolution Max motor, which is their new liquid-cooled design. Now, the Sportster series and even the original Nightster from like 2007, 2008 are iconic motorcycles, right? They use the same Evo engine for the longest time, and they would make, some changes here and there, with fuel injection, keyless ignition, things like that. But overall, those bikes largely remain the same until the Revolution Max motor that was put into the Pan America also started going into the Sportster lineup and into the Nightster. So this lineup has completely changed, and what they're saying is they want to focus more on core products. So they're going to take the production of these three motorcycles out of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and move that over to Thailand. Now you may be thinking, why Thailand? Well, this started back in 2018 when the EU was pissed off with President Trump at the time because he was actually putting tariffs on aluminum and steel that was imported into our country. So Harley Davidson made a decision to open up their Thailand plant so they wouldn't have to deal with those tariffs going into the European Union or European countries as a whole, because they actually have a big market share over there as well. Now, the result of that was a Kansas City plant for Harley Davidson being closed down, 572 people losing their jobs directly because of it. And then in 2019, another 600 IAM, who is the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers that work for Harley Davidson, lost their jobs as well. So the IAM is really pissed off about this decision. They say that they are directly shipping those jobs out of York, Pennsylvania to another country, and it's going to directly affect their workers right here in the United States. Now, Harley Davidson is saying, nope, that's not going to happen. We're actually investing another $9 million into our core products. Their core products being their trike and their Grand American touring motorcycles. Now, seeing the impacts that happened from 2018 and 2019, I can understand why the IAM is a little wary of what Harley Davidson is saying, because there was already over 1,100 workers that lost their jobs directly because of that. Now you move 3 motorcycles, even if the sales of those are declining, you're still going to move 3 of those out of the United States to a completely other country. I can understand why the IAM is not taking Harley's word for it. This controversy is not great timing for Harley Davidson. This is coming, less than a couple weeks after the initial controversy with Harley Davidson going woke. So it's kind of compounding on other issues that Harley Davidson is having. But the timing, again, not a great move for Harley Davidson to start moving some of its non-core products to another country. But I found something interesting that I think may be at the core of some of this, but let me tell you about their CEO, who Jochen Zeitz actually is. Now, Jochen Zeitz comes from Germany. That's where he was born and raised. He took over Puma, and there's some interesting things that happened at Puma that I think are shaping some of the things that he's also trying to do with Harley Davidson. By the way, I met Jochen Zeitz earlier this year. I thought he was interesting. I thought he was a fantastic guy, but that's something about me, man. Even if I totally disagree with somebody, I can still have a conversation with them, right? It may influence certain parts of the conversation, certain things that we may talk about or not talk about, but at that time, I really did not know a lot about him, if I'm being totally honest with you. So when I talked to him, I was like, oh, CEO of Harley, Jochen Zeitz. He's from Germany. We talked about a lot of that stuff, right? And I thought he was just genuinely a pretty cool guy. But when you look at his time at Puma, it really tells a lot about the direction he wants to take Harley Davidson. Now, when he took over Puma, they were losing money. They had lost money as a company over the past 8 years. But they were also seen as a brand of shoes that basically anybody could wear. He wanted to flip the entire narrative on what Puma actually was, taking them from a common, everyday guy type of shoe to a premium brand. So by restructuring the brand image, bringing in Hollywood celebrities that wear Puma or that would wear them for, their commercials or their photo shoots or their brand advertising, he was able to flip this company around where they became profitable, and as far as I know, they still are. And that is largely because of what he did. But it wasn't just about profits and margins. He also wanted to make an impact into what they do globally. And this is something that he's talked a lot about, is having an impact on the world around us. So not just looking at profit margins, which is obviously going to be huge for any company. Regardless of what anybody says, profit margins are one of the most important things. But he also wants to make an impact globally, right? Climate change is a big deal to Jochen Zeitz. There's no doubt about it. Now, Jochen Zeitz actually co-founded the company Plan B with Richard Branson. And amongst other things, they want to change the way business leaders look at their business, more than just creating profit, but also valuing things like diversity, zero net emissions by 2050, a whole host of different things. And in an interview that he was having that was, about Plan B, the interviewer asked, like, hey, you have, 4 homes, one in New Mexico. I think he's got 50,000 acres, 50,000 acre farm in Kenya, Los Angeles, and somewhere in England as well. Have you ever calculated how much carbon emissions you're actually outputting? And he said, yeah, it's about 100 tons. Then he went on to say that when he plans a trip on his plane, he tries not to be wasteful and all that. Well, I just did a quick calculation on Google. 100 tons is about 220,000 pounds. Well, according to the EPA, a family of 4 in America produces about 83,000 pounds. Each person has about 22,000 pounds. So he's producing 10 times as much carbon emissions than the normal American. And I say that simply because while he may be doing things that he thinks are, good and conservation, which is a big deal to him. And I'm not, listen, we always talk about these ideas and stuff like there's not somebody behind them. And I genuinely think that he cares about the environment. I do. I have no reason to think he doesn't. But at the end of the day, if you're producing 10 times the amount of carbon emissions than the average American, it's kind of hard to preach to people that that's what you want, especially in a motorcycle brand as iconic as Harley Davidson. This is the way some average people look at it. It's like, hey, I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to enrich myself, and then I want to focus on saving the planet. So you really need to watch your carbon emissions. I've already made my money. Now I can buy ranches and all that kind of stuff. I'm just keeping it real, dude. And this is kind of the way that he's ran Harley Davidson, turning them more into a premium brand. So while their sales have been down consistently, they are still making more per motorcycle. They had the Rewire plan and then the Hardwire plan. Rewire, basically reimagining what Harley Davidson actually is. He wants to turn it more into a premium motorcycle brand. Is what I imagine as something like a BMW or something like that. And while Harley Davidsons have always commanded a premium price, they also have a certain image and a certain rider that goes along with that, and those riders aren't all dead yet. They're still alive and well, and they're still buying motorcycles. And regardless of what anybody says, motorcycles and Harley Davidsons are for any and everybody. We accept everybody to ride in, but you still have to know who your core group of riders are, and having zero net emissions, having the live wire, and moving production from America to Thailand is just not a great look for the motor company that has built its brand off of the backs of soldiers that took them into World War I and World War II, and then those same soldiers that came back and started riding Harley Davidson, creating clubs, creating an entire countercultures, right? There's always been countercultures inside of the motorcycle industry, which is totally fine. But there's just certain things that you don't embrace with a company like this if you want to keep your core group of customers happy. So I thought it was really interesting how they said they were going to focus on their core with $9 million. Democratic Governor Bob Casey out of Pennsylvania secured an $89 million grant for the motor company. And again, this is for their zero emissions vehicle, which is Livewire, right? Which has lost, 300 and something million up until this point. Now, granted, they've sold more units, I think they sold more units last year than any other years. I haven't looked at all the sales numbers, but it's widely known that Livewire, which did split off and kind of do its own thing separate from Harley, it's still under the Harley umbrella, but they're kind of doing their own thing, but still, Harley Davidson is still associated with them no matter which way you kind of dice it up. So to invest $89 million into something that's already lost over 300 million, and then you're investing 9 million into your core market, I almost feel like this may be another kind of play to start working towards those zero emission goals that Jochen Zeitz personally has, and incorporating that into the Harley Davidson brand. And it's right there in their mission statements. They want to be the leader in electric vehicles, right? And Livewire is their way to do that. Now they have other models that have since dropped, that have dropped in price as well. But still, it's just, I don't know, it kind of seems like an odd decision to invest that much money into something that is just continuously losing tens, hundreds of millions of dollars at this point. Maybe there's another strategy there that I'm not seeing, and that's totally fair. Look, I'm not behind the scenes. I'm not running their business, so there obviously is a lot of things there I don't understand, but what I do understand is that Americans are not going to accept this news as, oh, it is what it is. They see this as a threat to what Harley Davidson has always stood for, which is freedom, right? Gas-powered, 45-degree V-twins that shake a little bit too much and just give you a ton of torque. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Not even by 2050, I do not see that changing. So it's obvious that they're focused on the future. And to me, it's obvious that Johann Zeitz has kind of incorporated a lot of his personal beliefs into the company. And a lot of this started back in 2013, as far back as I could go. But he's been on the board of directors since 2011. So they've kind of slowly implemented these changes. And it's understood that, hey, a lot of the stuff that we wear, right, t-shirts and hats and, even stuff from Harley Davidson as far as their apparel is not made here, right? It's made in Bangladesh or maybe even Thailand or wherever it's made. So most people are okay with that. And a lot of the stuff that we use in our everyday lives are not made in America. But there's one thing that Americans don't want, and that is American bikes that are produced in another country. Big part of Harley's success is that the bikes they've made here stay here and are sold here. And Johann Zeitz even said that. And now they're going back on that. Now I think Riding in the Ozarks actually made a good point about this. By them shipping their bikes and production over to Thailand, first of all, what is temporary? Because they say this move is temporary. What is temporary? Second of all, if they're doing that and they're saving money there, when they import those bikes back in, there's going to be like a 2 to 3% tariff, I think, on non-agricultural products from Thailand. But are those savings going to be passed on to customers here in the US? Or will that lead to even higher profit margins? Everything I've talked about up to this point, and knowing how Johann Zeitz looks at business, I'm going to assume that those margins are not passed on to the customer. But, one thing they did this past year is they included a hell of a lot of technology in the new road and street glide. And yet they were able to keep those prices relatively low. I know some people are going to say, oh my God, $27,000 for a motorcycle is crazy. But compared to other premium brands like Indian, they were still able to keep those prices very competitive. There's a possibility that happens, and I hope it does. And again, I just want to say I love Harley Davidson, but I also understand, I think, who their core customer is. And by seeing the outrage over not only this, but the claims of them going woke, I just do not see that being a winning strategy for a company like that. Because again, they're built in America, they're sold in America, and when you take jobs from Americans, or potentially take jobs from Americans and then ship those bikes overseas, no matter what those bikes are. By the way, I think those bikes are probably selling way better than the Livewire is, so it's almost like, hey, move production of the Livewire over there if you're going to do anything. I just want to see them reverse course on these types of strategies and come out and say, you know what, guys, we're not going to be shipping our bikes overseas. We're going to make sure those jobs are in place. We're still going to invest money into our core market. And we're not going to have DEI policies infused with what we do. We make the best motorcycles because we hire the best regardless of who you are. Boom, there you go. You clean all of this up and people will come right back to Harley Davidson and say, you know what? They stood up for what's right. I don't know that they're going to do that, though. I don't see that happening, but I really, really hope it does because, again, I care about this company. So there you go, man. There's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours, whatever that may be, down in the comments below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.